What's good, y'all? So today I'm bringing y'all the top 10 details in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, starting with number 1, animated transformations. Now, the thing I appreciate so much about animated transformations is that this is something we have not had in a Dragon Ball game for so long. Now, when I mean long, the last time I can think about having animated transformations in a Dragon Ball game was all the way back in Raging Blast, and that was all the way back in like 2000 something. That wasn't even, it was probably like 2012 or something like that. Who even knows? But another thing that really makes you really appreciate animated transformations is not being able to be broken out of them. The whole breaking people out of their transformation concept started in Xenoverse, and I really have never even liked that. Name one time other than Android 17 in the Tournament of Power where in Dragon Ball a transformation was broken, where they stopped you from transforming prior, other than Cell, because that was like the whole point of the Cell saga, was to stop him from transforming. But name a time. They just be sitting there watching people transform, so why can't I do that in the game? Like, come on now. Another thing with animated transformations is that it just makes the game more immersive. Like, if you can sit there and transform and then the other person go and do the same thing, it just feels good, bro. Like, it just genuinely feels good. Like, I hope they add where like both of y'all can transform at the same time, because if they make that a thing, bro, the game is gonna be so cool feeling. Like, it's just going to be overall more immersive because both of you can transform at the same time and just exert all of your power at the same time. Like, it's Sparking Zero, bro. This should be possible. Come on now. Moving on to number 2, we got stage destruction. Stage destruction is something that we have been begging for to get better all the way since Raging Blast once again. Like, I remember when Xenoverse 1, it was either about to come out or it just came out, and we were just begging for the stage destruction to get better, because I remember back then, I'm pretty sure the way stage destruction worked was that if you did something, like if you blasted the ground with a Kamehameha wave, it would regenerate. Like, I don't know who told them this was a good idea. Honestly, I don't know why they would make it where the destroyed terrain can just regenerate. I guess it was just overall easier on the system or something. I don't know, maybe they just didn't have the code at the time to like have built in like stage destruction where it would just stay there, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, since all the way back then in like the early 2010s, we've been wanting stage destruction to get better. And just now in 2024, it's finally starting to, you know, get better. Like, Sparking Zero has these huge maps with all these big pieces of terrain, and nowadays you can easily break through by simply flying through them. Like in the gameplay showcase, we seen Goku fly through the rock and break it, if I'm not mistaken, just by flying through it. Meanwhile, in Xenoverse, we gotta break a whole like piece of the ground by shooting it with an ultimate, and that barely does anything. And then on top of that, it'll regenerate. Like, come on now. Once again, stage destruction for number 2. It needs to get better. Please, Sparking Zero, Bandai, whoever is behind the game, please make this a thing. Now, moving on to number 3, we got Great Apes / Giants. In the Dragon Ball gaming series, we have not seen Great Apes and Giants since all the way back in Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Now, that is a crime punishable by death. Other than that, now that's just playable Giants. The last time I believe we saw Giants in a Dragon Ball game, period, really was Xenoverse, but does that really count? Like, before that, I think it was Ultimate Tenkaichi, and that was when they were like cool boss fights in the story mode and the hero mode, if you guys remember that. That's probably one of the best like giant boss fight Dragon Ball games out there, in my opinion. I know a lot of people hate Ultimate Tenkaichi, but I love it. It was one of my favorite games back then, and I loved it to death, and I still do to this day. Regardless, in Sparking Zero, we all know, if you've been keeping up with the game, we've seen Great Ape Vegeta, and all that tells us is that we for sure will be able to play as the other giants that come into the game. Now, if we see, like, for example, Hirudegarn, or like if we get GT and we can get Great Ape Baby, that would be amazing to play as them. And this is I'm so appreciative of it Because, bro, it's giants and great apes, bro. Like I said before, we haven't seen this since Budokai Tenkaichi 3. That was the last time they were playable. So thank you, Bandai, for making this detail possible once again in the Dragon Ball series. Now, moving on to number 4, we have beam struggles. Now, beam struggles is once again one of the very key details and elements of Dragon Ball as a whole. Without beam struggles, Dragon Ball would not be what it is today. Therefore, beam struggles coming back to the game is such a key detail that we 100% needed for Sparking Zero. Like the last time I believe we saw beam struggles was Ultimate Tenkaichi. So yeah, thank you for the beam struggles. We needed that. Overall, it's gonna do nothing but make Sparking Zero once again a more immersive experience, and overall just add to us feeling like we're inside the Dragon Ball universe when we're playing this game and making content on this game. Like, it just overall helps the appreciative factor that everyone will have while playing the game. So now, with that being said, once again, number 4 is beam struggles. Now, moving on to number 5. Here we have the A or B decision making in story mode, which is quote unquote what if battles. Now, what if battles are different from what the A and B decision making is, because by that I mean in the release date trailer, when we're looking at Piccolo and it says go with Piccolo or go it alone. Now, with this is going to change what we decide to do and pretty much lead us into a what if battle. Now, the way I feel about this is that it's cool to have that concept, but my question is this how we're going to be led into every what if battle? Because if so, that doesn't really make sense, which is why I don't believe that'll be the case. Because how in the world are we going to get to the what if battle with Gogeta and Vegeta as we seen in the Fusions trailer by the actual story? What would lead to that? Like, I don't think that's possible. Therefore, with that being said, I don't think that'll be the case. But overall, A and B decision making and what if battles are once again back. The last time I believe we saw what if battles was all the way back in Raging Blast. Once again, that game is, I don't even know how many years old. We needed them back, so thank you. That is once again another key detail that we needed for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So pretty much what if battles and A and B decision making are really split up, so I will say that's 5 and 6 right there. So now, moving on to number 7. The large 164 base game character roster. We love to see it in the Dragon Ball games, guys. Once again, we're coming back with another large roster. Now, the last time I think we seen a large character roster in the Dragon Ball game was really, I think Raging Blast 2, if I'm not mistaken. I think that roster might be the biggest one we've seen, like, since maybe Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Honestly, like, Fighters does not have that large of a roster. Well, Xenoverse might have a bigger roster, but at the same time, I feel like I remember the Raging Blast 2 roster being bigger than Xenoverse's roster. But by now, the amount of DLC that game has had is just an unfair advantage, bro. Like, DLC for Xenoverse has expanded so far compared to the roster of Raging Blast. Like, that game had no DLC, I don't think. So anyway, when you think about it, if we were to strip all the DLC away from Xenoverse, base game roster, I think the last one we saw that was the biggest was Raging Blast 2, next to Budokai Tenkaichi 3, and that was literally 2 decades ago. So, to have the 164 base game character roster is just an amazing thing that we 100% needed back into Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So, to add this into the Dragon Ball franchise for the games is amazing. This game already has a bunch of key details that is overall just gonna make the game more immersive and feel more like a real Dragon Ball game. Like, the last game I think they put out was The Breakers. The Breakers! It was either that or Kakarot, to be realistic, but I don't really know. So moving on to number 8, we have the graphics. Now, the graphics in Sparking Zero are nothing like the graphics in any Dragon Ball game we have had recently in the past decade. Now, in the past decade, we've got Battle of Gods. Or not Battle of Gods, Battle of Z. We've got Xenoverse 1 and 2. Fighters and the Breakers and Kakarot. Sparking Zero's graphics are better than Kakarot, bro. Which is expected because it's coming out later. But all these games that's come out in the past decade have been nothing but boo-boo, doo-doo, garbage. Like, Sparking Zero just is on a whole nother level with the graphics, and it's not even comparable, bro. Like, for example, when you take the hair physics that Sparking Zero has, I don't think any other Dragon Ball game really had hair physics at all. Like, that's just one simple thing that just adds to the game so much to a point where it's like you don't notice it, but when you put them side by side and you look at the difference in the graphics by simple things like the clothes moving and the hair moving, it just makes it a way more immersive experience. Once again, moving on to number 9, game mechanics. Now, what's to appreciate about the game's mechanics is how they take from BT3, which is Budokai Tenkaichi 3, and Raging Blast 2. The game is literally gonna feel like a mix of the two, and I feel like that's a good middle ground to be at, because these are two of the most successful arena fighter-esque Dragon Ball games to ever even release. So I appreciate that. I really do think that that's a very key, very important detail that the game needed, was for the game's mechanics to pull from pretty much what we already know, but still at the same time find a way to cut through and feel like a whole new game, which it will because of all the other details we talked about prior. Now, moving on to number 10, the game's user interface. Now, this is more of a hope than a key factor that's already there, set in stone, because we have not seen this yet. Right now, we're right after, fresh from the release date trailer coming out, and we still have yet to see the game's user interface, and I'm very scared about that because recently we've been getting games that's user interface is not that good. If you know, you know. Regardless though, it's Sparking Zero, and realistically I have very high hopes for this game, so I doubt that they do anything less than a 10 out of 10 for this game's user interface. Hopefully they use something that's somewhat of a mix from like Raging Blast 1 and like Budokai Tenkaichi 3 in a way, because those are also two of my favorite user interfaces in the Dragon Ball franchise for the games, period. Other than like Ultimate Tenkaichi. I don't know why I really like that one as well. But the game's user interface is definitely something that is very important, because this is pretty much the first thing we see when we load the game up. We don't want to load the game up to what looks like a 2005 DVD player screen. Make the game's user interface good. But with number 10 out of the way, y'all, this was the top 10 details in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, at least that we know of so far, right after the game's release date trailer. So yeah, if you like Sparking Zero or anime period or gaming period, this is the place to be. This is my second channel. This is not my original channel, you know. So if you want to go show more love, go sub to my main channel. If you like the video, drop a like. If you like the content or anything Dragon Ball or Sparking Zero period, drop a sub, because I will be covering everything on this channel Sparking Zero from now on. I promise y'all I will be showing more love to this channel. As I said before, this is my second channel, so I know sometimes it can get hard, but trust me, I will be showing more love to y'all over here. So with that being said, y'all, drop a sub, drop a like, and I'm gonna see y'all later. Peace.
From JJ Kaisen, I can't go nowhere.